to see you folks. Who's joining?
Should we put another announcement or
Just did. Uh, I think we can. Just a second, let me check. Mm, Just put an announcement 30 minutes back.
oh, okay.
Mm, uh, we asked back. So I think all of today has been just announcement. So
Hey, Night Shadow.
yeah.
Maybe we can just tag everyone.
Yes, I think Raj. Yes, let's go for it. We'll get started.
Should we start?
Yep, yep. Let's get started.
Okay.
Dhiren, I hope we are recording this. I can just use the chat and just confirm if you're recording this.
Okay, so we have put out the announcement. Cool, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last time we had started building something on top of Polymarket, it was, I think, the first live stream in which we uh, introduced the Polymarket interface and the way you could place bets on events happening in the world. And we did kind of a DeFi use case where we predicted the price of an asset like Bitcoin and bet on that Bitcoin 5 minute market where we just predicting whether it will go up or down in that particular 5 minute window. This time we are gonna go into a much more interesting use case, something that's not just like a 5 minute market where we are trying to trade some asset. We are going to take some real world use case where uh, we are tracking some kind of macro event, uh, like a geopolitical event, and based on that, we are going to make some changes or some rebalancing to our portfolio. So this is something that a lot of people, not just in crypto but in the general finance ecosystem, would find useful, and obviously developers would find it useful. So to start with, you must have heard about the stuff going on in the war and stuff like that, and there's obviously inflation. So everyone knows here what's inflation. It's basically the supply of um, money is increased, more money is printed, and due to that, things become more expensive. So if there's more of dollar, so people will start charging more for a particular good or service. So what we'll do in today's use case is track some markets in the Polymarket um, platform, and based on people's predictions, we are going to make some decisions and automate those decisions in real time. So to give you a brief of this sample market, which is still running, it's called the March inflation in the US, and you can access it here. What does this even mean? There's all these numbers are percentages, and then you can buy yes, no. It looks pretty complex. It's much more complex than the earlier use case of Bitcoin prices. So what's this? So this is an event that's basically the March inflation. March is over, but the inflation reports are not in public yet. The government or the Fed would probably make it public on April 10th. That's why the um, estimated time remaining is on 10th April. And there are these different markets or like options here, that the March inflation US would be less than 2.6%, or it would be 2.7%, or let's say it would be greater than 3.4%. So these are different options, or in Polymarket they call it markets. And you as a user, if you have some money to bet on these markets, you could say that okay, let me bet that March inflation in the US would be 3.3%, and I could place an order here of some amount of money, say $1, and say yes, it would be 3.3%. Or someone else might predict that it would be greater than or equal to 3.4%. So they can adjust based on how much of a large bet they want to place. And when this market resolves on 10th April for this particular market, we're gonna know which particular what's the inflation value essentially, and whoever selected the correct one, whoever bet on the correct amount, would win their price, right? This is how it works. And how does this even matter for an investor or someone managing some portfolio, um, or let's say a big hedge fund? So nowadays with Polymarket, people actually making these bets. A lot of people actually have some info about, or some domain knowledge, I would say, not insider info. That's totally a different thing, but they have some domain knowledge, and usually the result tends to be what the majority of people vote. It's obviously not always the case, but usually it does have some relation to whatever the majority people vote. So it does act as an important signal for people whose portfolio depends on the US inflation rate in this example we're taking. Or it could be some other market like the war, US Iran, or something else, like the oil prices, those kind of markets. Obviously all these events might be interconnected, and one particular event could lead to some other event as well. um, yeah, so let's say that I'm some kind of investor or portfolio manager, and I want to make sure that I know what the inflation of the US is in March, and let's say it kind of goes high up. It goes more than this amount. What what happens when inflation rises? This is more of an economics lesson, but I'll just give you a brief. um, when inflation rises, prices rise, and the government or the federal bank, they tend to increase the interest rates, so people reduce their spending, and then basically the inflation kind of drops down gradually. So inflation could be a signal for an increase in interest rates, and when the interest rates of any kind of asset that you want to borrow rises, then maybe it could be interconnected to whatever portfolio I'm managing, right? I could be managing some asset like US federal bonds, and if the interest rates rise, then I wouldn't borrow money to get those, uh, you know, get those bonds. I would try to keep holding whatever I already have and earn that interest by lending it to other people. So obviously this is something that is more of a finance thing, and this is something that the hedge fund managers would know better, but they would want to basically get alerts for these events. So let's say whenever the inflation rises above some threshold, let's say this market hasn't resolved yet, but let's say people are predicting that it, like 40% people are predicting that it will be greater than this amount. So it's a decent signal for an investor. They should kind of at least make a note of that if their portfolio is dependent on this. So they would want to get alerts, and maybe they would even want to rebalance their portfolio automatically. So that's what we're going to do today with the help of Kwala. So what's Kwala? Kwala is an automation platform. You don't need to write any code. You just would have your smart contracts which are already deployed on whatever blockchain you're using, and you need to use the workflow builder or the workflow editor and create some kind of workflow to get these automations running. So let's take start with our use case, which is based on some inflation amount. We'll select some threshold, and based on that we'll try to set up some alerts and some rebalancing of our funds. To do this, I've actually created a repo. I'll just share that in a while. Just give me a raise of hands, whoever um, is sitting on their system, and if they can try it out. So just send a message on Discord maybe. Okay, Discord is open here. Cool. So what I'll do is give you a brief of what our repo does or our API does, and then show you how to build the workflow. So what we want is to keep tracking the data from Polymarket, right? You want to make sure that, because this data is updated pretty much every second, or even less than every second, because people just keep trading, buying and selling, right? So we want to make sure this data is up to date. For that, we're going to create a cron job. A cron job is a repetitive job which does some kind of computation, like fetching data or making some changes in the data. So let's just say let's name our workflow something like fetch Polymarket whatever inflation data, and here what we're going to do is select some trigger configuration. So in the we want to execute this trigger immediately and want to repeat this at some time interval. So let's just say I want to repeat it every 5 minutes, and I'm going to set an expiry. um, I want this workflow to keep running till a future date, so I'm just setting a date really in the future. And what are we going to do? So trigger is whatever you you want to run a cron job, right? So you set a time interval, and the action is something you want Kwala to do at whenever this workflow is triggered. So what you want to do is hit this API endpoint, which we've already set up. You can just you can use this link directly, or download the repo, clone the repo, and set it up yourself. um, okay, let me just okay. So what we want to do here is call this particular endpoint. What this does is it it it, it is a post request, and it under the hood our server fetches data from Polymarket. So Polymarket has an API, and it just gets the data of this particular endpoint or this particular event. And when it gets that data, what it does is it processes that and sends that data to a smart contract. So we have also written a smart contract and deployed it on the testnet. This is also available in the code base. I'll share it with you in a moment. And what it does under the hood is it calls this update sentiment function. So what we have here is this is not the real data, but it's obviously predictions by people. They have bet that the inflation will be this much or this much. So it's like the people's sentiments, right? So we just named it, named the function update sentiment. And if you look at the first parameter, it's basically the slug, which is whatever market we are trying to track. In our case, it's the March inflation, this one. We just copied this, and we are actually going to paste it here. Okay. So this is our API endpoint. We can even actually call it from elsewhere, but we're going to call it from Kwala, and we're going to pass this data. So the slug or the data is this one. You could actually do this for other markets as well, but for now I'm just doing it for this one. And I'm going to name the workflow name the action March inflation, and there we go. And there's just one action, so I'm going to just select create workflow, and you need to compile your workflow. Okay, what's happening here? I've compiled the workflow. I'm gonna save it and then deploy it. Okay, while this is deploying, let's have a look what this actually does. Okay, so under the hood it calls this particular function, right? And what does it do? It does some validations. These are all the parameters that Polymarket uses, like market ID. So this is an event and these are the different markets. So all these markets have some kind of ID and some label, some yes prices and no prices. These are the yes prices, 1.2 cents. These are no prices for each of those markets. So these are just the parameters in which you can see in the front end, just in an array format. And what we essentially do is go over each of these markets. There are, I think, 9 or 10 markets here, and loop over them and check which one has a percentage or like a bet from different people higher than some threshold. So we've actually set some threshold here. If you come to the contract and see the read write section, you'll see a threshold variable and it's set to 3400, which is basically 34%. So 3400 divided by um, 10,000 is 34%. So whenever some, like one of the any market has a bet or like a total bet of more than 34%, we're going to mark that and send an event, right? So we're going to emit this event called sentiment updated. Emitting events is a way Ethereum or Ethereum style EVM blockchains uh, can can track a lot of changes other than transactions. You can send out data, and these events can actually be tracked by Kwala as well. So we're going to come to that. And in the emission of the event, we just send out the slug, the new price, old price, and all of these changes. And yeah, that's like our first workflow, and it's deployed already, and we are going to quickly activate it. And while it's activating, I'm going to show you the next workflow. So right now what happened with this workflow was it fetched the data, our API fetched the data from Polymarket and then emitted this event. So I'm even going to show you the event logs here on chain. And as you can see, I'd actually set up some cron job earlier as well for the same thing, and it did emit an event, right? This sentiment updated event with a slug of this value. Then there's all these market ID, label, and stuff like that. And there's another event 24 minutes ago as well, and that's this one. This is for the 3.3%. So if you have a look at this, there are two markets which have a percentage greater than the threshold that we set. We set a threshold of 34%, and these two are actually greater than that, right? So we got these two events, these two markets, 3.3% one and the 3.4% one. Cool. By the way, stop me if anyone has any questions. So just unmute yourself and feel free to interrupt. Okay, now we have emitted the event. It's on chain. Now we are going to use Kwala to keep track of these events and then take some action for that. So for this, we've already written this workflow. I'm just going to go over this. So we want to rebalance the funds and also send some alerts, right? So in this case, what we're going to do is set a trigger of type event. So earlier we did something like um, immediate and time interval to set up a cron job, but this time we are going to track events on chain. So every time this a particular event happens, we're gonna have this trigger, and as usual we just set some expiry date of this workflow. And here comes the interesting part, the trigger source configuration. What's this thing? So we need to paste a contract address which contract has some event being emitted. So in our case it's this contract. We've named it sentiment oracle. So we're just going to copy the address from here and paste it here and select the chain would be Sepolia Ethereum because that's where we've deployed it, and it would actually automatically fetch the ABI. ABI is the JSON format uh, of the contract, the Solidity contract. And in case your contract isn't verified, like this one is verified, but if it isn't, then you'd be able to get the ABI yourself wherever you've compiled your contract. You could have compiled it on Remix or locally somewhere. So you just need to copy paste the ABI here, and then you'll be able to select an event. So this contract of ours has got two events, sentiment updated and threshold updated. We're interested in this one. Whenever the sentiment is updated, we want some notification, or we want to rebalance our funds, right? So we're going to select this, and we want this event trigger to happen whenever this event happens, right? So we're just going to copy paste the same thing in our recurring source config. So the same contract address, the chain ID, and the event as well. Okay, now comes the interesting part. Earlier what we had done for our previous workflow was call the API endpoint that we had created, right? We had set up this endpoint and we just called it from Kwala. I'll actually just show you how to call it from your own terminal as well, because this is a normal post endpoint, so you can even call it from here. There it is, it succeeded. And instead of you obviously can't call it locally every time, so you use Kwala. You don't want to have the hassle of calling it on your own. Okay, going back to the next the workflow we were discussing, which is doing the rebalance or sending some alert notification. So let's first discuss the alert notification part. So I'm going to do a Discord alert. There's just too many examples of Telegram alerts in the Kwala docs already. So if you open up the Kwala docs, there's just pretty much every use case has the Telegram example. So let me just show you how to do it with Discord. So it's also a post request to the Discord API, and let me just show you how to send a message on. I've actually created a dummy server so that I can send messages here. So let's say you've got a Discord server and there's a channel. So what you need to do is select this settings icon and select integrations and go to webhooks, and you'll either already have a webhook or create a new webhook. This is the new webhook created now. and then copy the URL. Just click this and it's copied. That's all you need to do, and just paste it here. Nothing else is needed. You just need to paste that webhook here. And in the payload, what you need to do is send this, the set the key as content, and in the content you can put out your message. So I've just written something like inflation predictions have crossed whatever threshold you set. Let's play around a little bit more with this message. So if you look at this, I've set this event, and there are a lot of parameters here. So what if we could send these parameters to our message, right? Because right now the message is just, there's no data here, it's a static message, right? So let's try to do that. To do that, we're going to have a look at the event, right? It's the sentiment updated event, and there's a lot of parameters here, but the important ones are the label. If you have a look at the logs, you'll see that the label parameter is basically the inflation percent, right? It's 3.4, 3.3. So this is kind of important for our hedge fund manager, right? So let's like our label is all of the parameters are actually being passed on to the action. And how do we get access to that inside our message? So to do that, we are going to use something known as, it's basically a syntax that we have created in Kwala. It's called re.event. So it's the event parameters, event parameter number 0 or 1 or 2. Indexing starts from 0, so the first parameter is actually the 0th parameter. So what's the 0th parameter? It's the slug, it's the event name. I think we know the event name already. So 0, 1, 2, this parameter is important. So the third parameter is number 2. We're going to pass this, have crossed the threshold you set. Are we passing the threshold here? We're not passing the threshold, but we are passing the new yes price and the old yes price as well. So what's the yes price? Yes price is actually this one. So people can now buy this yes at 40 cents, basically 40.3 cents. And this is actually some I think it's a little older data, but they could buy this one at 37 cents. So this is also interesting, like if the fund manager wanted to buy the participate in the market itself, if they want to start betting themselves, then it would be useful, right? Okay, what's happening here? Cool. Okay, so let's pass this data, have crossed the threshold you set, and prediction for okay, what does this mean? Inflation predictions for label 2 is this one. 3.3% market or 3.4% market have crossed the threshold you set. So this is I think a pretty descriptive message. You could do something like this, or pass on some more parameters. You could obviously update the smart contract as well to change the parameters, try out some new parameters here. So yeah, I think that's the the alert action, and if you have a look at my server, I hadn't actually passed the re.event for the earlier action, but it would obviously work. um, so do try this out. Try putting in the event parameters in your action payload, and these are the messages that I have got. Like I did set up cron job for every half an hour, so it just keeps sending me a notification every half an hour. Okay, that's cool. The next step would be to rebalance the portfolio or whatever funds I'm managing. So for this, we have created just a dummy smart contract. Um, Let me have a look at the address. I think it must be here. 85. Okay, it's this one. Let's open up the other contract. Okay, so what we've done here is created this dummy vault. Obviously, it doesn't have any funds. It just has this one function and one event. It's just to show how this could be configured. A fund manager or someone managing their portfolio would have a much um, more elaborate contract. So what we want to do is copy the address, and I can create another action in the same workflow. So one action was this, and the other action is of type calling a smart contract. So in this action we were actually calling the Discord API, so it was a post request, and in this action we are calling a smart contract, which is this vault one. We copied the address and pasted it here. It's also on the Sepolia ETH testnet, and you can select a wallet. You can use the Kwala smart wallet or whatever the default wallet is to make the call. So you'll basically make a function call to this Solidity contract. So we're going to call this function. There's just one function here. So it's a dummy function to rebalance your portfolio or rebalance your whatever users funds. So you just need to copy the function definition up to this point. uh, Anything further than this isn't needed, just this much is needed. Copy that and paste it in the target function, and obviously we're not really using the string data, so it's a call data type, but you don't need to paste that part. You just need to set it as a string, and the target parameter would be this one. There's just one parameter here. If there would have been multiple parameters, let's say a uint something, uh, then you would actually set the other parameter in a new line. So the second parameter could be something like this, but in our case it's just one. So what I'll do is inflation predictions have crossed the threshold you set, and we can put the value here as well. For event 2 market have crossed the threshold you set, um, and do something about it, rebalance or whatever. Or obviously you would probably set some logic as well. You could set some real logic where you move the funds to another wallet or another asset class, or withdraw your funds from some asset. So you could do all of those things. So right now we're just passing a label, a string, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. And the next step is the execution. So in this we actually had two actions. So the first one was to call the smart contract, the rebalance one, and the second was to send the alert. So you could do these two actions in parallel. So you set the execution mode as parallel, or you could do it sequentially. So the first action 1 would run first, and once that's complete, action 2 would run. You could add more actions as well. Um, so yeah, that's about it. And we have that workflow deployed. And if we take a look at the logs, this has been called a lot of times. Rebalance has been called because I okay, we just set up a workflow a while back with a 5-minute cron job, so it seems to be working. uh, 6 minutes ago rebalance was executed, and then 11 minutes ago it was executed again. Cool, so it's working. um, yeah, so this is, I think, one of the more complex and the more interesting use cases based on what's happening in the world, in the prediction market world, and in the general um, in general markets, right? um, and to get access to these to the starter code, you can just we'll just share it on the Discord as well. And um, where's our yeah, the API is public. You can actually use this API directly to make the calls like I did here. You could do a curl request, and then you could set up your Kwala, get your tokens, participate in the Kwala bounty, and get Kwala tokens to try this out yourself. I would recommend you to try out a different market. um, let's just see some markets. um, I don't want to select something controversial, but um, okay, maybe the Fed decision in April. Um, this is an okay market. Or how many Fed rate cuts? Yeah, this is a nice market. So maybe try this out. Instead of the slug that we used earlier, use this slug to make a request to our API. So instead of this, you paste this other slug and do the request and see what happens. Maybe it might need some API changes, like the API might uh, be not correctly configured for this market, this event, but it there are high chances this would work as well. So just give it a try, and we'll publish the code base as well for you to try out. mm, Nice. What's going on in our Discord? Is Satish here? Hi Satish.
Yes, Raj. I have one question here.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any geographic restriction on the prediction market itself?
So Polymarket does have legal restrictions in a lot of places. So the United States has a different Polymarket interface that's compliant with their whatever, because like a lot of people could do insider trading on these markets, right? If someone is working in the government, they could just come
Uh,
and use their knowledge to make money.
Acha.
So they I think they have a page where they have given the restrictions. It's not banned in India, but obviously just don't take my word for it. When if you're using it, just make sure you are compliant with the
Sure, sure.
uh,
Because a lot of times I have seen, uh, like when I try to open some of the markets, right?
yeah, yeah,
A
like
lot of
a lot of
time,
service providers block the URL.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah, even I've seen that. So yeah, like Polymarket US has this it's on polymarket.us. And yeah, so there are geographic restrictions, or like um, internet provider restrictions, so that's obviously there.
Good. And second thing is, so let's say um, if the slug we are selecting
Hmm.
has multiple markets,
Hmm.
and if there is a, tie sort of a thing
Hmm.
between the predictions.
Hmm.
So let's say if our threshold is 30%,
Hmm.
but there is like a different market which two different markets which are having the prediction contribution as 35 percentage
Hmm.
in terms of the voting. So if there is a tie kind of a thing, so how do we generally handle those scenarios?
Okay, great question. So this is actually something we can see here. It's almost a tie. It's like 41% here and 40% here. Um, so the first thing, there are obviously different kind of prediction markets. There's a normal, very simple market where the answer could be a yes or a no. So if you have a look at the crypto markets, which we had done in an earlier use case, it was it was that will it go up in 5 minutes or will it go down. So it's a very simple use case. But in this case, it's there are so many options, and if the let's say this one has people are betting 40% of the bets are here. Now someone could also bet on this. Like I could place a bet, place $1